Welcome to BAM It with John, Michael, and Mari, covering all things business, accounting, marketing, management, and IT. The place where businesses and entrepreneurs find the forest through the trees.
Hello and welcome to BAM It. My name is John Michael Cletus with Peridot Consulting, and we're with Mari Peterson with Marketing Outpost. And today is another Billism, and we're joined today with Bill Kelley. And Bill, let's hop into it. What's our Billism today?
Our Billism today is, if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you always got. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got.
So let's expand on that.
Let's expand on that. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yep. I tend to be insane sometimes.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting is the operative word, different results. Okay? So then we need to take a breather. We need to back away from it and think about what we're doing. And I can put this into planning to fail is failing to plan. If you don't have a plan to begin with and you're just going down that yellow brick road all the time, then you're going to get possibly the same results. You're going to get lost. You're going to get lost. You're going to get lost. Okay? Mm-hmm. This also gets into problems need to be addressed. May need consistent attention, not just ticked off a to-do list. So again, it goes back to doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We're not addressing what we're doing over and over again. We're just ticking it off. Okay, well, I looked at it and I'm ticking it off. Did it get solved? Did anything happen that changed it? And part of that is system problems. Again, I've said this before in some of our podcasts, that 96% of the time when you got a problem, it's a system problem. Look at the system. Look at qualifying what are the steps that you're currently doing, and are they even relevant anymore?
Maybe you need to change the system.
Exactly. Change it up. So problems need to be addressed, and many leaders, again, they look at it, well, it's conflict. And, I've said to people, I've gone in and I've done some consulting, and I said, do you have an onboarding process? Well, no, I just hire them, and then I just give them the Sally and have Sally, show them the ropes. Okay, that's not an onboarding process. Well, I don't have time to do that. You know what? If you spent time and did an onboarding process, then you'd find all kinds of time because you're not constantly going back trying to fix the things that are wrong. They're not being done the way they need to be done. So again, so many times they have leaders that say, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to plan. I don't have time to teach. I don't have time to train. I don't like the word training. I like the word develop. Training has a start and a finish. We're developing an ongoing process where you're constantly developing that employee. You're constantly developing self, and as far as keeping yourself relevant. If you expect your revenues to grow, people need to grow. So again, I like the development process. So it goes back to what we said. If you always do what you always have done, you're always going to get what you always got. Look at your turnover. If you got a revolving door and people keep on going through that revolving door, then you better change something. Not realizing what did it cost to turn an employee. There's a static cost as far as developing that person, uniforms and HR processes and all that kind of stuff. And then there's that cost you really can't put a dollar to, but I call it the emotional cost, that you're taking that employee and you're putting him in front of a customer, and that employee is not developed to accomplish the customer's needs. And then you got a turnover in your customer side. So again, going back to what the Billism is, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. So take a look at what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, if you want to grow, something's got to change. If you want to fix an issue, something's got to change. If you think it's going to fix itself, and it goes back to what you said previously, that's the definition of insanity. That you've got to accept the fact that you've got to change some processes if you want something to change. If it's just growth. If you want to grow, something's got to change. If you've got issues, something's got to change.
Well, and from a marketing perspective and working with clients, when they come to me first with the problem, something's not working. I thought I would, be successful at XYZ campaign, and it wasn't. So I'll ask them, well, what were you doing? And then I say, how long have you been doing that? So I hear a lot like, oh, I advertise, but yes, I've been advertising in the same, publication for years. So, well, that's what needs to change, because you've already exhausted or tapped out that potential. And so you need to go into a different place. So sometimes I'll tell owners, you need to go swim in a different pool. And what that means is if you go to the same pool every day, you're going to see the same people. So if you want to meet new people, you got to go to a different pool. And so sometimes it just means literally physically changing where you're at so that you can actually see something from a different perspective. So I really like that as far as what you're saying. You can't always do that. And in business, sometimes we get in that rut. I think we get into this like, I don't really want to change. It's going to take too much effort. But really, that's what's required, especially if you want to grow.
And Mari, this is what I love about you and your marketing skill set. You've got operational background, you've got marketing background, and more importantly, you've made me a cheerleader of you by just one of the comments that I've heard you say is that you want to make sure that people are getting a return on their marketing dollars. And so many times we keep on marketing the same magazine, the same place. I see so many businesses where that person will come in from various vendors and say, okay, you want to sign up again this year? Yeah, and they don't even look at, well, what I'm signing up for, is it giving me anything back?
Exactly, and I think you got to change it up. So what you're saying is a problem that is endemic, not only just from top down to bottom up.
Yep, correct.
So in an accounting world, how would you apply that?
Well, I mean, a lot of times it's an infrastructure issue. A lot of times people are saying, I just don't know what's going on. Maybe they just need to implement a QuickBooks program to be tangible. They need to change their processes. They need to change their point of sale system if the point of sale system isn't giving them the output that they want to do. A lot of accounting is infrastructure.
I know one thing that you do for clients that I think is really important is he does a pro forma, and he tries to help them plan, as Bill was just saying earlier, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So one thing John Michael does is he helps clients by putting in a plan with their financial accounting. And when they look forward to, hey, next year I really need to invest a lot of money into some capital equipment, John Michael helps them see, is that realistic, and put in those numbers. And I think so many businesses are running by the seat of their pants instead of actually kind of planning ahead for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice thing. Rolling 12-month cash flow projections plus income projections are always a nice thing to implement. Once you get that infrastructure in place, to do that, you have to have concurrent bookkeeping. You have to have good hands-on bookkeeping going. But doing a rolling cash flow projection tells you, A, can you afford it? B, what are you willing to do with it?
It also probably tells them where they need to make some changes, as Bill is saying.
It creates a backdoor budget. What you do is when you're doing this rolling cash flow projection, you're seeing where the money's going, you're seeing where the bleed's coming from, and it tells you that you can't spend that much money on that supply, because if you do, you're not going to have the cash for what you really want to do.
Yeah, again, well said on all fronts. So this is all encompassing. If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
So don't be insane.
Don't be insane.
Well, thank you for that one. I like that one.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today, and please be sure to review this episode. And for more information on who we are or this podcast, please visit www.bammit.com. That's BAMM-IT.com. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
The hosts and the guests of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice and is for entertainment purposes. It is not guaranteed that you will find this as entertaining as the hosts find themselves.